unnecessary intro song to totally waste your time.
So, the 5 billionth person blocked me on Facebook today. God damn. I'm telling you, it happens. It's like I can't make a comment without getting blocked by somebody. But let me tell you about this fella. I got blocked because I commented. Okay, let me tell you. So there's long haired, long dreadlocks down to the middle of his back kind of guy. First comes on my radar in a group dedicated to ProMasters, which is the van I have, right? So I joined the group because of the van. This guy starts making, he looks like a hippie. He's missing a tooth, but he loves Donald Trump. That's kind of intriguing. And so we kind of hit it off right away. Both of us look like idiots, missing a tooth or two. And we drive the same kind of van, right? And he's a pretty smart guy. The guy's pretty sharp. He's got good arguments. Smart guy, you know. I'm thinking, oh, okay, this is pretty cool, you know. Maybe I'll run into this guy somewhere. But as so often happens in my terrible existence, when I find these people I have a lot in common with, all of a sudden these other really weird things come out. You know, it's just like, oh, smart political thing, smart this. Oh, he's smart. He's rational about the weather, very rational about global warming and climate change. Smart, has a lot of evidence, links to good stuff. But then all of a sudden, he's 2 more posts down. He's figured out the secrets to the Bible and has figured out that human beings are an alien race that came from another planet, and he can prove it. He won't tell you how, but he will. Trust me. Just sign up for my newsletter. You know, never really gives the information. He makes a bunch of predictions about earthquakes and starts posting about UFOs, starts having, you know, showing videos of things floating in the sky over Denver. And I'm going, dude, that's a plane. It's an airplane, and the angle of the sun is reflecting off of it, and that's why it looks super bright. The sunshine is like, have you ever seen a bright light across the valley and realized that the sun is directly reflecting off of a window into your eyeball? You ever seen a disco ball and seen those little, you know? But no, he's convinced. He knows, but no, he doesn't believe in UFOs. He knows there are UFOs. He's got the evidence, and he'll tell you about it. But first, he's got to give you a reading. He's got to read your personality. He gives these, he makes people pay. He's a psychic, basically. He's a charlatan, you know, a run-of-the-mill charlatan, a very intelligent run-of-the-mill charlatan. Dropped out of, was an orphan, didn't go to school, so he wasn't indoctrinated, and this is why a lot of this intelligence is coming through. I actually agree with him on a lot of these things. His name is Israel Anderson. You can look him up. But he was apparently adopted or given up for adoption, was raised in an orphanage or something like that. Don't quote me, but something dramatic like that. Didn't go to any schools, and he's a bright guy, right? But now he believes, and it's really interesting because there's this theory about Joseph Smith too. There's a theory, a really wonderful theory, that Joseph Smith was a really bright guy, but didn't have the infrastructure to channel that brightness. You know, what happens is a lot of times when people have a gift, you know, like they're smart or they're charming or whatever, and then they look around and they realize not everybody else around them has that gift, they start believing that God did it. You know, they put out ideas and other people start to follow. Well, that just confirms it. That confirmation bias is real. There's this theory that if Joseph Smith had lived in a metropolitan area rather than and by the way, Joseph Smith is the guy who started the Mormon Church. And that's significant because it's one of the world's largest religions, but it started in America in the days of pretty thorough record keeping. So we can actually see what happened with Joseph Smith, right? So, but the theory goes that if Joseph Smith, I don't know who postulated this theory, but it's a pretty good one. I wish I could give them credit. But the theory goes that if he was in a metropolitan area with access to an art school or like any kind of colleges back then or whatever, or even access to a community of other really bright, creatively minded people, he might have just channeled that energy in there. But no, he channeled the creativity into inventing a religion by looking into a hat at some stones that enabled him to translate some golden plates that he found in a hillside that nobody ever saw, including the 7 people that said they saw it because they all retracted their stories. He looked into a hat and okay, same guy. This Israel Anderson's the same kind of guy. Absolutely. Now he's translating the Bible. He knows things about the pyramid that nobody else knows, but he'll tell you, but not yet. Subscribe to his newsletter first. He's going to be revealing things. It's always what he's saying. I'm going to be revealing things. Okay. He's constantly predicting an earthquake here, an earthquake there. I don't see them happening. And that's the funny thing with these guys, and that's the reason why I parted ways with InfoWars too. Too many predictions that don't come true. If you predict 20 things every single day and you keep them kind of vague and general, some of them are going to come true. If you make 20 general predictions about things that might happen and you keep them within this scope of possibility, if you make 20 predictions every day, that's 100 predictions in a business week, take the weekends off, one of those or 2 of those predictions is going to come close enough true that you can go, ha, see, I predicted it, I'm smart. But of course, what about the other 99 that didn't come true? That's the thing that InfoWars never came through on. Obama's going to have people in FEMA camps. I know it. He's going to have FEMA camps. Plastic coffins. Trains going to FEMA camps. There's never a retraction when it doesn't happen. He doesn't go, well, I was wrong about this, wrong about that. It's just the ones that stick get foisted to the foreground, pushed into the foreground. So I don't know if they don't. I don't know if Alex Jones doesn't understand all the prophecies that don't come true. I don't know. Maybe he forgets about them. But that was another one of Joseph Smith's. This is what actually made Joseph Smith smarter. Because in the beginning days of Joseph Smith, he made big prophecies and predictions, and a lot of prophets find this out very quickly. Doomsdays. This is going to happen on this date. Doesn't happen. Suddenly the population, their followers start going, ooh, false prophet, I don't know. He was wrong about that. You only get a few chances at bat with big predictions, right? And the smart ones figure that out. And Joseph Smith figured it out pretty quickly. He figured out, oh, shit, I got to stop predicting things. So he stopped. The whole early days were filled with big predictions. And then all of a sudden they come to a halt because I believe he figured out this is a bad policy. And then Brigham Young, after the whole thing fell apart and Joseph Smith conned a bunch of people, made a fake bank, conned a bunch of people out of their money, got in trouble and was murdered, not because he was a martyr, but because he was scamming people out of money. That's really what it came down to. Brigham Young picked up the pieces and was kind of smart, and he didn't prophesy much. He kept those to a minimum, and he kept them very general and didn't put dates on them. Remember Y2K? The prophets that were sure about that? I remember there was a guy in 2012. What was the local guy that predicted the, what is it when everybody floats up to the sky? That thing. What is that? I forget what that's called, but he predicted it, and everybody was thinking, oh, when the Mayan calendar was ending, or whatever. And it didn't happen, and he had to close up shop. I actually went and took photographs in front of his little church in Oakland just for fun after that happened. Because, of course, most of us are going, no, it's not going to happen. It's not. But this Israel Anderson is one of those guys. Self-professed, self-proclaimed genius. Okay, so let me get to and so it was a bummer for me. And this happens too many times where I meet somebody who's really smart over this thing, and then suddenly turns out they believe that they're lizards living on the moon. And I just go, oh, what a dramatic disconnect. And I've noticed this a lot with a lot of conspiracy theorists. And they are smart people. Like, they have a certain intelligence to them. They can put lots of pieces together. They're not dumb people. And there is a condition where I think that there's really high intelligence is not as good as it seems. People with higher than average IQs tend to be filled with a lot of self-doubt. There's a lot of what do you call that? Neurotic. What's that thing where people are always afraid that they're have a disease? Not neurosis, but hypochondria. Is that the word? Yeah. That can go because really smart people understand all the different possibilities, and life can become this giant puzzle. And it becomes really easy to start making connections with things. You'll see this with numerologists, The possibilities to make connections are endless. You can always arrive at an answer if you want to, if you're intelligent and you study it hard enough. That's right. It's a weird thing. You're inventing an answer. You can take the letters of an alphabet. Well, H is this letter of the alphabet. Add that plus this, divide, and there's a way to get to the answer you want, and confirm that you're intelligent or that you're a prophet or whatever. It's that confirmation bias. Confirmation bias doesn't only affect dumb people. It affects everybody. And it seems, in my experience, I don't know, I'm no scientist, I'm not claiming to be smart here, but you can see it. You can see it affecting really intelligent people, who maybe don't have an outlet or don't have a community that can rein them in, Well, for example, that's what's this Israel Anderson's problem. He doesn't like pushback at all. And of course, I've been accused of not liking pushback, but I actually do. I just like to debate things. Well, his post today was a post that I genuinely sort of agree with. I understood. His post was simple. It says, belief is the hardest prison from which to escape. Although I think he might have ended the sentence with a preposition. I'm not sure. But many people do. So belief is the hardest prison from which to escape. I thought that's a pretty profound statement, and I generally agree with it. It is a tough one. Belief is tough. Certainty is tough. And it was kind of surprising coming from this guy who is adamantly convinced that he is a gifted prophet roaming on the earth. With a hairdo and dentistry to match, So I thought, well, that's interesting. Maybe he does have some humility. Maybe there is. So I said, my simple comment was, death seems a little harder. Do you believe in death? That's what I asked. Smiley face. Thought it was pretty clear that I was pushing an intellectual button to, provide some pushback on an absolute statement, His comment was, death is a transition. It requires no belief, just acceptance. And so I said, so you believe that death is a transition? Smiley face. Then he got upset. Then he called me, then he invoked the Dunning-Kruger effect. He told me I was dumb. It's funny because I've never actually invoked it, but the Dunning-Kruger effect, for those of you who don't know, is a couple of shrinks postulated what is pretty glaringly obvious to everybody. I don't even know why this has a name, but oftentimes dumb people don't know they're dumb, and therefore they think they're smart. They overestimate their competency, because they don't know that they lack information. I kind of doubt how often that happens. We see it happens. There's nothing more common than the really confident idiot. You know what I mean? There's a lot of those around there. But when it's applied to people that are, I mean, you can apply that to a doofus who has nothing, a homeless person or something, or, a guy. It's hard to apply it because if somebody's getting along in life and they're doing well and they're successful at something and they get along reasonably well in life, it's really hard to apply that Dunning-Kruger to them. You know what I mean? And by the way, most people I meet, even though I like to call people idiots and stuff like that, I like to exemplify idiocy in the world. Why? Because I think I'm an idiot. I think everybody's an idiot. I use question marks as my moniker because I don't like certainty. Certainty bothers me, and it's because I absolutely am very aware of how little we know. Anybody, even the smartest person in the world, knows very little of what there is. The smartest quantum physicists know so little. I mean, just with being with my mom in the hospital just last week with their stroke, seeing the doctors come in and they're guessing. They're guessing. The smartest doctors are guessing how the brain works. They don't know. We don't know. Nobody knows. Not even the smartest people. And the smartest people are the first to tell you they don't know. What we do know is great. I'm very happy for the things we've figured out, and simple. I'm happy for aspirin. I'm happy that it reduces swelling. I'm happy that it thins out the blood a little bit. I'm happy for the things they do know, but all the other stuff that they don't know, this guessing, this pretending to be smart, drives me nuts. So he invoked the Dunning-Kruger thing. He immediately pivoted, rather than staying on the topic, which was a good philosophical topic. I thought, well, I'll get in a nice philosophical debate about what is belief. And I was literally almost baiting him to help him prove his point more securely, If I could show that he had a hard time even escaping his own belief, that would make his statement more true. There is no harder prison from which to escape than belief. I'm trying to show that he has a belief system. But he resists, and he just launches into, what is your IQ score? Literally, he said this. He goes, what is your IQ score? And I'm like, well, I haven't taken an IQ test for a while, but when I did, I was surprised about how high it was. And I was. I was surprised that it was higher than I thought it should be. Like, my own perception of myself is that I'm barely above average. That really is my perception of myself. My grades were average. It wasn't because I didn't feel capable, but I just didn't have an interest in school. But I don't consider myself to be anything better than average. So the one time I did take, and it was an online thing, I got a much higher score than I thought. And a lot of really smart people have claimed that I'm smart, and I usually resist that claim. And I do. I'm not just saying that. But that's why when he asked my score, I thought, this is preposterous. I've actually made posts about how IQ is such a small part of the bandwidth of intelligence. You've got to equate in dancing, likability, fashion. There's so many other forms of intelligence that aren't tested in an IQ test. So I was like, I go, well, that's a fun pivot. Can't we stick to the topic? No, what's your IQ score? I said, well, I don't know. Let's take a test together. That would be fun. We'll take a test and we can invite Dunning and Kruger. I don't know if they're alive. I doubt they are. And they can read the results. That'll be fun. Okay, well, it's got to be in the Denver area. He's South African, so he's got a South African accent, which I think it's South Africa. Sounds kind of like New Zealand to me, honestly. But, so I'm not going to take a test with him live. That would be weird. And anyway, do you know any smart people who wear their IQ test results on their chest? Isn't that kind of a weird thing? Well, I'm smart because look at my IQ test. Anyway, I was literally trying to help him. And I don't know why, because in the last 6 months that I've known him, I keep putting, I see the reasonable posts. I like them, and then it comes down to a weird prophetic thing where he's a prophet and he's figuring out the universes, and he'll tell you at a later date that he's revealing everything. He's figured it all out. It's so obvious. When you see it, you'll be amazed. It's always just baiting for some future event. He never comes out and says anything. It's baiting for a future event, you know. So I put him on a 30-day mute, and then 30 days go by, and then he pops up again. I have him in my feed for a day, and then I put him on a 30-day mute again. And that's what happened this time. And I just kept kind of pressing the buttons. I'm really trying to steer him back. I go, well, can't we just stick to the topic? This is a pretty good topic. Belief is a good topic. But no, you're stupid. What's your score? What's your score? He was doubling down on my IQ score. And I'm like, well, this is a funny pivot. And I kind of became a little bit enchanted by his obsession with the score. So I posted one of my older podcasts, the one that really actually deals with the perception that IQ scores are the only things that matter, where I rebut that idea. And I kept going. And then he launched into a long thing like, well, you're not smart. There's no way you're smart. But at least I thought you were nice, but you're not even nice. You're an asshole. And I'm like, dude, I've never professed to be smart. I've never professed to be nice. These are both things that I clearly admit all the time, that I'm neither smart nor nice. People who say they're smart generally aren't. And people who are nice are generally dishonest. These aren't even things that I aspire to be. I aspire to be rational. I aspire to observe things as they are. To be clear-headed. That's what I aspire to be. I aspire to be honest with myself mostly. And that's a hard one. It's a hard one to figure out the maze of how we perceive ourselves and where we're being dishonest with ourselves. That's one of the biggest challenges of life, I think. Just finding out, am I fooling myself? Where have I lied to myself? I don't lie to others much anymore. Of course, everybody lies a little bit, and anybody that tells you they don't is a liar. Because a lot of it's just automatic survival instinct, and it goes on in the background. We don't even know. I mean, smiling when you're feeling down, that's a lie, But you might do it because you don't want to launch it. I don't need to explain this to you. You know that you lie. You know that you're dishonest. There's a difference between that background dishonesty than outright telling a lie to deceive somebody and defraud them out of their time or their property, I don't do that much. Very, very little. But I probably still do that too. I can't think of an example. But that's my big thing. Trying to be honest with myself, trying to see things clearly, trying to see things as they are rather than how I want them to be, to figure out, to have a clear picture. If intelligence is something to me, intelligence may not even be that important to me. Is it intelligence to be able to see things clearly, see things as they are? This is something I learned very early on, like in high school. I kind of learned this. And it was when, I grew up thinking I was a gifted artist. Why did I think I was gifted? Because a couple people told me I was, especially my mom. She told me I was talented, and I just believed her because I was a dipshit. Okay? But I believed that I was smart. But I look back at my drawings, and they're no better than anybody else's, And here's a big fun test that you can do with people. Draw an eyeball. They draw an oval, they put a dot in the middle of it, and it's a symbol that represents an eyeball. But it doesn't look anything like an eyeball. It's not until you're actually painting, doing real life realistic painting when you learn to see things as they are and not as symbols that represent what they are. Smile, curved line. Is it really? No, it isn't. It's a series of muscles that pull the face back, and there is a slight curve to it, but there's a lot more to it. There's little wrinkles in the lips, an eyeball, the lid that comes over the top and the thickness of it, and the curve of the eyelash, and, seeing things as they really are. If you want to start teaching yourself to see things as they really are, I suggest you get a pen and paper and try to draw a realistic eyeball. A realistic one. Try to make it look like a photograph, That's how you start seeing things for as they are. But then you can extend that into philosophy, and you can extend that into your own personal life, Somebody once said, what are you going to, or no, it was like, what do you do for a living? Or what do you want to do for a living? And my argument was, well, we're always doing what we want to do, right? And the best thing in the world would be to get paid for what you actually do, not what you want to do. So find out what is it that you actually do automatically. Oh, that was my stomach. I'm getting hungry. Figure out what you actually do and try to figure out how to get paid for that. Not what you want to do. That sounds like a tangent, but what it is I'm saying, try to find out, see the world for what it is. That's what I want. Intelligence be damned. I don't need to fill my head with repeatable facts that I can look up in an instant right now anyway. Who needs that? We don't need it anymore. We have all the information at our fingertips. We don't need to fill our head with those things. But if we can teach ourselves to think and observe things for actually how they are, how does this work? And that applies to anything. You can zero down in onto a dandelion and go, how did this grow? What are the components of this? How is it? Now, how do I think it is? Just how is it? How does it work? What is there in the observable universe? The truth, the honesty, finding out what we really think, what we really don't know. It's really, to find out what things really are, you have to, I'm going to get back to Israel. If he wouldn't have blocked me today, and he did block me, he made this big long screed, and I tried to reply to it, well, disappear into the ether. I hate Facebook does that too. They should at least say, well, here's your comment. You want to copy paste it somewhere else? No, just gone because he blocked me from the thread, But, you want to find out how things really are. Not what you hope they are, not what you want them to be. And I think until you can figure out how things actually are, trying to influence them to be something else seems foolhardy. It doesn't seem very smart to have a plan of how things should be until you figure out how things are and how they work. Is that smart? Do they test for that on the IQ test? Maybe I'm a 60. I feel like I'm a 60. Oftentimes, that's how I feel. So anyway, I was blocked by a prophet. I was blocked by a self-proclaimed genius, Israel Anderson. IsraelAnderson.com. Go ahead and look him up. Please do it. Look him up. He'll give you a psychic reading. He'll read you. He'll read your soul. He'll give you a personal healing. He will heal you, because he has special powers. And if you ever disagree with him publicly, he will block you. He will make a big, long character assessment and then block you from further comment. Basically, he's a regular internet citizen. Anyway, that's all for now. Thanks for listening.